Ever wondered how card counting in blackjack works? Well, it's a strategy used by skilled players to tilt the odds in their favor. By keeping track of the cards that have been dealt, players can make educated guesses about the cards that are yet to come. This doesn't mean a guaranteed win. Rather, it's a way of significantly improving the odds. It's a game of probabilities and strategy, where the player with the sharper mind often has the upper hand. Stay tuned to learn the simple steps to count cards in blackjack. Before diving into card counting, understanding the basics of blackjack is essential. So, let's hit the ground running. Blackjack, also known as 21, is a card game where you're not playing against other players, but the dealer. The aim is to beat the dealer's hand without exceeding a total of 21. The game starts with 2 cards dealt to both the player and the dealer. Face cards such as kings, queens, and jacks are worth 10 points each. An ace can be either 1 or 11 points, and all other cards are worth their face value. The player then decides whether to hit and take another card, or stand and stick with what they have. Remember, if your hand totals over 21, you bust, and the dealer wins regardless of their hand. Now that you know how blackjack works, we can move on to card counting. Card counting involves assigning a value to each card and keeping a running count. It's a process that requires a sharp mind and a keen eye. But don't worry, it's not as daunting as it might seem. First, let's break down the values. Picture each card in a deck with a number hovering above it. The high cards, that's tens and aces, are assigned a value of -1. This is because these cards are beneficial to the player, and when they are dealt, the deck becomes less favorable for you. On the other hand, the low cards, those are 2s through 6s, are assigned a value of +1. These cards are beneficial to the dealer, so when they're dealt, the deck becomes more favorable to the player. The neutral cards, 7s, 8s, and 9s, are given a value of 0. They don't particularly sway the game in either direction, so we don't factor them into our count. Now let's talk about the running count. This is where your mental agility comes into play. As each card is dealt, you'll adjust your running count based on its value. If a 2 is dealt, you add 1 to your count. If a 10 is dealt, you subtract 1. And if a 7, 8, or 9 is dealt, your count remains the same. The magic of card counting lies in understanding what the running count means. A positive count means there are more high cards left in the deck, which is good news for you. A negative count means there are more low cards left, which favors the dealer. Throughout the game, keep your running count covert but accurate. You'll need to adjust your bets and strategies based on this count, always keeping in mind that a high count means you can be more aggressive, while a low count suggests caution. Remember, practice is key to becoming a good card counter. It might seem tricky at first, but with time and patience, you'll be counting cards like a pro, tipping the odds in your favor at the blackjack table. While card counting might sound complicated at first, it becomes second nature with practice. Let's take a quick stroll down memory lane and summarize the key points we've learned about card counting in blackjack. Card counting is a strategy employed in blackjack to determine whether the next hand is likely to give a probable advantage to the player or the dealer. It hinges on the principle of tracking the ratio of high cards to low cards in the deck. High cards like 10s and aces benefit the player more, while low cards favor the dealer. The process involves assigning a point value to each card and keeping a running count based on the values of the cards dealt. When the count is high, the player has an advantage and should bet more. Conversely, when the count is low, the player should bet less. Remember, card counting doesn't guarantee a win. It merely tilts the odds slightly in your favor. It's a game of probabilities, not certainties. Also, it's important to note that card counting is frowned upon by casinos. If caught, you may be asked to leave. Above all, practice is paramount. It's a skill that requires patience and persistence to master. With diligent practice and a bit of luck, card counting can give you an edge in blackjack. Happy gaming.